Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another video for you guys from Set the Programmer. This one talking about Baryon mode and how apparently it's a lot stronger than we think. Now, we've watched another video about Baryon mode from Swagkage, and I'm looking forward to seeing this one and for him to explain to us how strong Baryon mode actually is. Try music. Make sure to subscribe.
Strength, super speed, super alien eyeballs, magic wizard powers, ninja weapons, super alien genetics, reincarnation, alien demigods, Dragon Ball Ki Blast, super alien monster parasites divided into smaller super alien monsters, all against science.
Yeah, he still can't beat Goku. I know there's a lot of people who are probably going to be salty about that, but no, Naruto doesn't beat Goku, even now.
And superhuman strength, super speed, magic wizard power. Shut up! Before we start, I'd like to say, subscribe to my channel. Please get me to 1 million followers already. The 700 through 800k is really boring. Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Twitch as well. Today's video will be going over Naruto and Kurama's Baryon mode and his fight against Ishiki. I've been promising this video for quite a bit now, and I won't lie, I was waiting for a few things, but I think I have a lot of game-changing stuff to show and explain.
Sorry, I gotta pause for a little bit just to, avoid copyright.
To you guys will make you think of Baryon mode entirely differently than before. I'll also go over some in-story explanations and justifications of Baryon mode as well, and overall do a bit of defense of the form since a bit of people don't understand a lot of things about it near the end. Baryon mode, at its core, is a Kurama technique. It's based off the physics term baryon, which is basically a type of subatomic particle, meaning baryon at its roots is a very scientific and more thought-out ability and slightly different than mostly every other chakra-related technique in Naruto for the most part. Thematically, it's supposed to represent a scientific twist on chakra use that Kurama utilizes that overall coincides with the whole scientific ninja tool adaptation we've been seeing throughout the story. However, it's a little bit more interesting because this technique is not just a scientific twist
Again, sorry.
On chakra use, it's Kurama showing that true chakra understanding and logic can actually amplify the abilities of chakra if you don't just use it flatly. Kurama is often underestimated, but he is in fact one of the most knowledgeable and intelligent characters in the entire Naruto franchise, which I'll get into. He has been alive since the days of the Sage of the Six Paths and before ninjutsu was even named, and shares almost the same level of life experience as Black Zetsu, who was so intelligent and resourceful, he manipulated Madara Uchiha and pretty much almost all of Shinobi.
So when it comes to Black Zetsu, yeah, it's interesting because when it comes to the Naruto fandom, there's rarely anything that can make them all agree, like unanimously agree on something. And this is definitely one of them. I think almost every Naruto fan will tell you that they don't like this decision that Kishimoto made to have Black Zetsu be the one that was, the one who organized everything. And like people were just kind of hoping that Madara would just be the final villain of the series, and instead we got Kaguya, and then we went to the Otsutsuki, and we're still doing it, and it's
almost all of Shinobi kind into doing his bidding and reviving Kaguya Otsutsuki. However, one thing Black Zetsu lacks that Kurama doesn't is that while Black Zetsu is an observer and definitely knows his stuff, he's not in the front line of the action nearly as much as Kurama is. Kurama has been the Jinchuriki, a very powerful shinobi, fought alongside Madara against Hashirama, was directly guided by Hagoromo Otsutsuki, who basically invented chakra for normal people to use, and has witnessed firsthand battles more times than you'd really imagine. Due to his experience, he has a vast wealth of information we have very little idea of, and this vast information is actually displayed even in the original Naruto Shippuden series, even before Naruto befriends him. While Naruto is often complimented for being able to create shadow clones, Kurama can literally split himself into two on some cell division and still be pretty much the same exact strength. This division technique, which was utilized against Orochimaru of Kurama, is more advanced.
Sorry, I gotta say, but the CG on these snakes, they really didn't age well. I mean, seriously, look at this. It's just wow. This just looks bad.
advanced than any Bijou technique Naruto has ever used, where Naruto just makes chakra arms at best. Kurama also uses this experience to captain around Kakashi, Guy, and Naruto with more efficiency and understanding than any of them can muster, and was also coaching Naruto in his fight against Kaguya and Sasuke at the end of the series. Basically, this thing is smart and knows his stuff about chakra very well. Using this knowledge, he figures he can fuse chakra together in a similar manner as nuclear fusion, showing an even more insane understanding than we thought. Nuclear fusion being something he could have learned from his hundreds to possibly thousands of years of life, or maybe he just paid attention to the ninja scientist talking while Naruto just brushed it over and didn't register it. This principle is necessary to face down against Ishiki Otsutsuki in the Boruto era, and not only does he create a nuclear fusion of Naruto and his chakra, it also has an 8 gates level resolve spin on it that might amplify it even further than that. And most people don't understand how significant nuclear fusion actually is, but if you say that Baryon mode is them using the nuclear fusion process, which Kurama compares to the sun,
he does.
but with chakra, we can actually somewhat quantify an increase for the form. Since Kurama compares the Baryon mode fusion to the process of nuclear fusion in stars, we can maybe try to quantify how much more powerful it is than its other forms by comparing it to the amount of energy stars produce with fusion. According to this chart, hydrogen-2 produces an omega electron volt of energy, meaning if you take into account molar mass and convert it to joules, a gram of hydrogen-2 undergoing fusion would produce 48,242,663,984 amount of joules. A gram of
that's just one gram?
And the stuff that's just part of every molecule of water, and from that, get enough power to blow up a building 50 times over. So normally, these things exert billions of times less energy. Considering that Naruto is considered to have pretty much a limitless stamina in the last, and Kurama's power is a bit more than simply breathing in air, it's really up to the imagination how astronomical of an explosive
I mean, I would say it's pretty damn big.
It's increase Baryon mode could potentially
it's a pretty big
this
increase.
also leads to another way you can scale the form, and that's through its power output and stamina limitations. As I just said, Naruto is considered to have almost limitless stamina in the last, and he can fight for days on end with only small breaks or rejuvenations in between. Even during his peak fights against Kaguya and Sasuke, he only got 2 recharges in almost a full day of straight fighting against the strongest adversaries he's ever seen. Yet Baryon mode's output is so insane that this multi-hour stamina only lasts for pretty much a few seconds, really, at most,
which
in
is
the manga, and maybe a few minutes in the anime, which further supports that insane nuclear fusion level increase the form could provide. While its roots in physics...
Yeah, I mean, considering absolutely everything that he said, it would explain why he wouldn't be able to fight for, let's say, an entire hour. Instead, it only lasts a minute. If it really was producing that much energy, it would explain why he burned through it so quickly, and why Kurama inside was telling him, you know, don't waste any thought, don't have any unnecessary thoughts, just focus specifically on beating Ishiki. Just have that be the only thing in your mind. It doesn't make sense if you think about it like this.
Physics or something that can explain its power, and I do believe that is what they were going for. I believe the narrative alongside this serves the form even more justice. Naruto is a series based upon the 6 paths of Samsara, the concept that all things in the universe, life, matter, and so on, a cycle without end. For Naruto, this is how many things are, from peace to war and the cycles of hatred and violence. Obito and Madara were seekers of the power of the 6 paths in hopes they'd obtain enough pain to end the cycles entirely and bring an end to Samsara, with the moon and Baba Chakra, Wheel of Samsara, representing freedom from Samsara, with the Sage of 6 Paths on an internal mission to solve this Samsara, or cycles, and Kaguya Otsutsuki being its personification. Even the 6 Paths of Pain are clearly in reference to this, obviously, and they too seek to end the cycles of hatred and misery through pain. However, Ishiki, Kaguya's boss, represents something a bit different. He's an alien out of this world and had no involvement with these cycles. And unlike his other alien counterparts like Kaguya and Momoshiki, he seems to want little to no conflict and is rather disinterested in anything but his further ascension into being a god. Ishiki is,
which
will sound a bit crazy,
which he did basically tell Code, like, yeah, okay, I need you to fulfill my goal for me since I'm, you know, dead. Which is to just keep eating the chakra fruit until you become that admittedly stupidly designed Otsutsuki god.
Represents 8 paths. Well, he's almost there. All over his body, he's designed with 8 tomos, and his eye is very similar to the 8 Paths Dharma wheel. Dharmakaya is often described as leaving behind the world of birth and death and dwelling forever in peace, basically outside of samsara, in which Ishiki was one step from obtaining had it not been for Naruto, Sasuke, Kawaki, and Boruto denying him of it and his karma, which Amato says lets him transcend death. For Naruto to utterly dominate someone of this caliber with Baryon mode is an entirely next level feat and might actually put Naruto in a godhood level of power, considering Ishiki was
for
already
about 5 seconds.
one step from doing so. This 8 Paths Dharma concept is what conceptually puts Ishiki above the 6 Paths cast of the original series in terms
The Sutra of 8 Realizations of the Great Beings, a Buddhist scripture on simplicity, generosity, and compassion.
Scale and even character, and in terms of even his in-universe lore of being an Otsutsuki, Otsutskis are beings of evolution and data, with them constantly amping each other over and over again to climb the evolutionary hierarchy into godhood. This data and evolution is most prominently shown in Ishiki's private realm, in which he is shown at the peak of the data hierarchy, even above Kaguya and Momoshiki, who both represent and have samsara eyes, which also supports him being above 6 paths. These Otsutsuki or celestial orders are very similar to the Devas from Buddhism as well, in which Ishiki is placed atop the hierarchy. He also shows a lot of similarities to Mara, who is the supreme enemy of the Buddha, and since Ishiki is supposed to be the ultimate and strongest enemy that pushes Naruto beyond all his limits, it makes sense for him to have this inspiration. For those that don't buy it yet, let me break it down this way. Did you know that the Renegon literally means Samsara Eye? I don't know if it can be any more blatant than that, but Pain, Obito, Madara, Sasuke, Kaguya, and even Momoshiki all have a Samsara Eye, or the Renegon. Then the guy above Samsara, Ishiki, or 8 Paths, for some reason is the only new big bad alien that doesn't have a Samsara Eye, but instead has a Dharma wheel.
Has a Dharma wheel, yeah.
It's pretty obvious. Well, except for the cyborgs above Jigen, but they're cyborgs, so they don't count.
Yeah.
Some more evidence of this is that the Boruto anime site just blatantly says Ishiki is the strongest enemy in the franchise so far, so no nerfs this time. Baryon mode is just the top dog of everything. For a more grounded explanation of how strong the form is for those that maybe aren't interested in the physics or the Buddhism inspirations, we can compare it directly to something like 8 Gates or 6 Paths. Might Guy in just his pre-8 Gate states and with massive fatigue.
Well, no, I mean, I think that pretty much explains it pretty clearly as to why, I mean, you know, for a while, these 6 Paths tier characters have been, you know, considered the gods of this universe. You know, characters like Obito, Madara, and then later Sasuke, Naruto, all attaining 6 Paths power. It would explain why they're considered gods, because at the time that was the strongest a person could get, is if they get 6 Paths power. And of course with Nagato, considering he got Madara's Rinnegan, it is interesting that they're trying to introduce this new tier of power. You know, instead of 6 Paths, it's 8 Paths, and of course the 8 Paths is based off the like they said, the Dharma wheel, or the Dharma. I don't know what it is. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious. I'm not all that familiar with Eastern mythology. I do know a little bit, but I'm not all that familiar with it. I should consider reading up on it. You know, because it seems very, very interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think that does kind of explain it. But maybe he's probably going to use something else to explain it. Sorry, 1 second, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Just had to take care of something real quick. Anyway, yeah, let's continue with the video.
He could blast Edo Tensei Madara off the battlefield, incapacitate him for a good amount of time, and even disconnect him from his Ten Tails, and even reacts to Ten Tails Madara and pushes him briefly before needing to resort to the full 8 Gates of Death, in which he could kill Ten Tails Madara with literally just air blast that he punches the air with. Considering a live Madara alongside a Rinnegan is stronger than Edo Tensei Madara, it's safe to say that Guy now has to take on a guy who's over a Ten Tails level increase over what he did previously with the 8 Gates, and surpasses his original power by tenfold over tenfold, and surpassed even the 5 Kage. With 6 paths, Naruto goes from struggling with blind Madara
Mm-hmm.
in KCM2 and losing to one-eyed Renegon Madara, to destroying Ten Tails Madara with more ease than Might Guy in 8 Gates, and even avoiding his Limbo without even using his...
You know, again, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but I always wonder why Madara didn't just absorb the jutsu. It's like,
Cloak.
you've
Madara
got the
then
Renegon,
absorbs
just
the
use
God
it.
Tree and obtains a second Renegon, and despite Limbo clones being equal to their original, Naruto is able to fight 2 Renegon God Tree Madaras off with just Shadow clones. Some people think that the God Tree is a 10 Tails level increase as well, and with a second Renegon, that exponentially increases Madara's
Well,
power.
the God Tree is the 10 Tails, so...
which let him go from a pitch fight to dominating his opponents before, I might believe it. However, what's even more blatant is that Madara gets caught by Black Zetsu, and energy starts pouring from the infinite Tsukuyomi and shooting out from the ground, which Naruto says the energy in question surpasses even that of the 10 Tails.
Yeah,
and he
it's...
shoots straight into Madara to the point his body can't handle the energy, and he's going to explode. This ball of Madara then becomes Kaguya, who Naruto is able to fight and give a hard time. So Naruto goes from a similar level as pre-8th Gate Might Guy to multiple 10 Tails levels stronger with one power-up. To go even further, even if you said Naruto and Sasuke never got any stronger...
No, which is completely wrong. Like, they got significantly stronger. That's people who try to make that argument of Naruto and Sasuke somehow never got stronger, and that they're the same as they were in the war arc, or sometimes weaker than they were in the war arc. Those people just don't know what they're talking about. I'm sorry.
Plenty of implications that they did. Jigen can no-diff both Naruto and Sasuke at the same time, and Ishiki is an entirely different tier above even Jigen, and even Sasuke with his Sharingan that can borderline see the future can barely perceive him. Then Baryon mode blitzes Ishiki in the anime, meaning Sasuke with his Sharingan, which we could see in the first fight between Naruto and Sasuke in part 1, would not even be able to see Baryon mode move, and boxes Ishiki onto his hands and knees casually, even with the most basic of Rasengan and combos. There's often the question if Naruto still has 6 paths as an adult, and I'll say it's ambiguous.
He does.
But heavily implied that he has something other than KCM2 Sage Mode. I say this
He
because
does.
Sage Mode, even for adult Naruto, still has sage rings around his eyes.
Yeah.
In fact, those rings are the sign of a perfect sage.
See, again, for anyone who doesn't know, this is Sage Mode. This is, let me see if I can find it. This is 6-path Sage Mode, okay? This is the only indicator that he's using 6-path Sage Mode. This is just KCM stacked on top of it. Okay, yes, I know it can get a little bit confusing, but it's actually not that confusing once you think about it. This is 6-path Sage Mode with KCM stacked on top of it, and this is regular Sage Mode. For anyone who doesn't know.
For adult Naruto still has sage rings around his eyes. In fact, those rings are the sign of a perfect sage. You cannot really go beyond that. Yet Naruto as an adult has no signs of these rings in his fight against Ishiki before
because he's using 6-path Sage Mode.
Different and probably some kind of 6 paths. Naruto even implies that 6 paths is something made with he and Kurama's energy and doesn't require any more outside influence like Hagoromo again, with Kurama saying that Baryon mode will be even more insane of an amp, meaning Baryon mode may have amped Naruto by several 10 Tails levels of power, which honestly could fit very well if you consider the fact that Ishiki was already basically 2 levels above Sasuke and Naruto anyway, with them not even be able to use fusion against him, meaning even Jigen's power was probably over twice as great as Naruto and Sasuke.
I just don't understand why they didn't. Well, I think I know why. I don't think Jigen would have actually given them the opportunity to fuse their chakras together.
Beat him with Ishiki.
Because I think he knew that, you know, them working together is kind of a dangerous combo, so...
being otherworldly in comparison. I think it's extremely clear-cut that Naruto is at the top of the series at the moment, and nothing even comes remotely close.
As long as he has Baryon mode, which he doesn't anymore, so that's... yeah.
Close until we see someone straight up blitz Sasuke Sharingan with linear movement, but even that's questionable because Sasuke's weaker now. A very fitting end for Kurama. They really did give Ishiki
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but yeah.
The business. The next part of the video will be a brief Baryon mode defense section for you hardcore Boruto fans, because I see a lot of people that question somewhat basic aspects about it. The thing I hear the most is, why did Kurama never mention this before? Well, for one, it wasn't invented yet.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's Yeah, that's pretty much the basic understanding. Like I've seen so many people try to justify why Kurama never mentions or ever even thought about using Baryon mode before. Like he never thought about using it against Madara. He didn't think about using it against Kaguya. Well, I don't think he would have used it against Sasuke because I don't think he wanted to kill him. But Madara and Kaguya, yeah, you would think it would be pretty handy over there. And I've seen people try to justify saying that you need the whole nine tails, not just one half of it, even though that's never been confirmed. As far as we know, all you need is, Kurama's chakra, and who knows, maybe it could work with the other tailed beasts because the whole principle is you just take two sources of chakra and you use them to create something completely new. That's all you necessarily need in order to be able to use it, like to use Baryon mode. Like that's the principle of it. But yeah, I think this is it. Like it really is this simple, guys. I know there's a lot of people who will try to justify. They'll come up with their own head canons, but it really is this simple. It's just it wasn't invented yet. It's something that Kishimoto just made up right there on the spot. Okay, let's just if we're being 100% honest, that really is it. Okay, it's that simple.
Duh. But even then, there's a lot of in-universe reasons leaving that basic
All right.
idea out, and it'll leave some internal consistency that I can explain. So we'll assume Kurama could have used Baryon mode ever since he became friends with Naruto. For all we know, Kurama could have needed his other half and needed to learn more about fusion and things from either.
This is the one that I hear the most. That, like I said, he needs both of his halves in order to use it. Which again, as far as we know, that's not 100% confirmed. That's just headcanon.
Dropping on scientists in Boruto, but let's just assume he knows ever since the Jinchuriki brawl. So for one, he did not need it against Obito, and was still mastering Kurama mode in general. Probably couldn't have used Baryon mode anyway due to them not even having a good link in the basic KCM form. 2, against Madara, the only time he would have needed it is when Madara was yanking Kurama out of Naruto. However, Kurama had a plan to still save Naruto and himself despite this event by getting Minato's Nine Tails into Naruto. Therefore, a sacrifice was not needed. 3, he did not need it against Kaguya. The only time he would have remotely needed it is when they were stuck in the gravity realm. But the other problem is that Kurama wanted Naruto to become Hokage, and that he had to fight Sasuke soon.
Conveniently, I forgot that I need to start pausing to avoid copyright.
Without him, Sasuke would simply win, and Naruto would never become Hokage. It would be a waste.
Yeah.
4, using it on Sasuke is also pointless. Naruto and Sasuke's battle was one of them trying to understand each other and didn't require Kurama dying to solve.
And also, there's the whole thing of Kurama would have died, and I don't think Naruto would have been okay with that. And also, I mean, I understand that Baryon mode now would be stronger than Baryon mode when Naruto was 16, because Naruto is not as strong as he back then as he is now as an adult. So maybe Baryon mode, you could say, wouldn't be as strong. But I also highly doubt that Sasuke would have survived. And also remember, Sasuke at the time had the mindset of wanting to kill Naruto, even though I would make the argument that deep down he never wanted to kill him, and that's kind of what was like mentally nerfing him, keeping him from fully utilizing his capabilities. But there was also a part of him that did want that. Now imagine if Sasuke, even by just a little bit, manages to use the Rinnegan's ability to absorb chakra, and if he took Baryon mode's chakra into himself, it would have severely amped him, which would be a problem for Naruto.
5, they didn't need it against Momoshiki. They beat him down pretty bad.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't necessarily against Momoshiki. I mean, it was made kind of obvious that they would be able to handle him without it.
6, they didn't need it against Delta.
Yeah.
They soloed her pretty easily. The only thing I'll say for Baryon mode is that maybe Kurama could have foreshadowed it after the Jigen fight, but other than that, there's no need for it to ever come up anyway.
So I just want to talk about this for a second. I do agree that they could have foreshadowed it during the Jigen fight, like maybe right at the end when he basically went full Dracula on them, like when Sasuke left and then Jigen was about to leave, and they could have had a scene where Kurama's like thinking to himself. You see some internal dialogue or an internal monologue where he says, it's a good thing that he left when he did, because otherwise I would have needed to resorted to using that. Just that bit of dialogue alone would have caused us, the readers, to go, oh, wait a minute, what does he mean by he would need to use that? And then when it comes to the Ishiki fight, and then Baryon mode shows up, now we know what he's referring to. See, I think the problem that a lot of people have with Baryon mode is, like they said, it just comes out of nowhere. And then now we're forced to try and rationalize why it was never used before. Like, again, a bit of foreshadowing would have been nice, but then again, you guys got to remember that the Jigen fight against Naruto and Sasuke was written by Kodachi, and it is possible that Baryon mode is a Kishimoto invention. It is possible that if Kodachi was continuing to write the story and he didn't leave and now Kishimoto's writing, it is possible that he might have had another plan for how that fight was going to go. And then, but you know, he left and now Kishimoto's writing, and it is what it is. But it's, look, it is, like I said, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. We can just try to make the best of what we have.
Anywhere else in the series. I'm also personally more on board with the idea that Kurama simply learned this form after Shippuden, as it makes the most sense, but even then, the form is still fine and internally consistent with Naruto. The other issue I see is that people downplay its power pretty extremely, saying Ishiki didn't even think its striking power was impressive. However, this is disingenuous because Ishiki only says Naruto's strikes aren't the main issue after Naruto starts becoming exhausted. In the manga, he only throws like 5 punches before getting tired, but in the extended anime version, we see Naruto blatantly overpower Ishiki and put him on his hands and knees as he gasps for air. Only after this does Naruto's power then drain, and Naruto almost passes out, and his strikes become not that big of a deal. Anyway, that's everything on Baryon mode for those of you that stayed this far. I have a little special bonus fact for you.
Oh.
Did you know that in Naruto Retsuden, despite the fact that Naruto is not allowed to use any chakra, or else his chakra network will fail and freak out and he'll pass out, Naruto actually dodges photon lasers in base while chakraless. But you know how it is. When Naruto is 8 octodecillion times stronger, when actually having chakra, he's only like sub-relativistic to light. Am I right? Hope you guys enjoyed. I think this video has a lot.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I know I rag on the Boruto series, but I got to admit this opening was pretty damn good, and I love this song. I've forgotten how many times I've listened to it. Which, if you haven't, I do recommend you either buy it, or if you've got like a Spotify or whatever, just find the song and listen to it. It's pretty damn good.
To offer when it comes to Naruto and Boruto fans.
Yeah, this was pretty cool when they transitioned into the. It used to be just the silhouettes, and now you can actually see them.
And really just.
Yeah, oh yeah, they did kind of spoil that.
Breaks it down.
Still not a fan of it.
Best as possible. If you did, consider liking it and consider subscribing and sharing to some friends. And other than that, till next time.
Yeah, okay, so there it is, guys. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, he made some pretty good points as to why this form is definitely a lot stronger than a lot of people think, especially when you compare it to you know, the process of nuclear fusion, which I'm not even going to pretend that I understand because I'm not a scientist, so I wouldn't know. But if it is what Seth said it is, then it does explain why Naruto became so astronomically stronger than he was before, even with Six Paths Sage mode. I mean, it's crazy. And I also can't believe there are some people out there who kind of downplay his strength. And I mean, it's I do get it. The anime and the manga kind of have different continuities. Yeah, a lot of things that happen in both of them are the same, and it's kind of the same thing as what happened in Dragon Ball, you know, or Dragon Ball Super. You had the manga and the anime. The manga, of course, has its own continuity. The anime has its own continuity, and it's this thing with Boruto and Naruto and Dragon Ball, where their sequel series do this thing where they kind of have their own continuities. You've got the manga and the anime, and it just makes things confusing, because if you go by the manga, it wasn't really all that impressive, but then if you go by the anime, you see what happens, and it looks way more impressive, and it just caused a lot of confusion, which sucks. But again, like I said before, it is what it is. All we can do is just try to make the best out of the situation that we're in. But anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, share the video, subscribe if you haven't, check the description for links, and make sure to go support Seth, and you know, by subscribing to him, watching his videos, and helping him out with the algorithm. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and bye for now.